of that smart board screen right there.
Right. I don't see where the camera is.
Aren't they
Cameras on the wall.
those black ones up there?
Oh, over
There's
there.
3 of them.
Oh, gotcha.
That way they can always get your bad side.
I've been down here.
Gotta have more than one.
I know. At least you knew where to sit.
Well, I had to look at my name.
All right.
This is their first back.
Yes,
back
this
in
is the
business.
first time back. All right, we are ready with YouTube.
Ready to go? All right. Call to order, Bellbrook Planning Board meeting, August 19th, 6 p.m. Roll call, please.
Mr. Tuttle,
Here.
Mr. Stengel,
Here.
Mr. Harding,
Here.
Mr. Bennett,
Here.
Chairperson Thompson.
Here. And looking over the minutes, geez, the last time we met was in May. Oh, that's why I wasn't on that one. That was virtual, correct? Yep.
Yes.
Looking for approval.
So moved.
Second.
Who seconded them?
Ed.
Thanks. A motion was made by Mr. Bennett to approve the minutes from May 20th, 2021. And this was seconded by Mr. Stengel. All in favor?
Aye.
The old business, doesn't look like we have any old business on the agenda, but, in the, never mind, that was planning meetings. Okay, new business. Looks we have a merger and a split. The two things? All right.
Looks like it to me.
What's the first one?
The Highview Terrace replat to combine.
River
On the
Birch.
lots of 70 and 69? Open, you wanna walk through
You want me?
that? or- Sure.
Sure, I gladly take it. First, again, want to thank Mrs. Timmons for being the one with the distinct privilege of reading through it, and appreciate how well it's put together, and hopefully can provide her some relief in future meetings, and either myself or additional member of staff taking over the duties. So, again, what you see here is pretty well put together and pretty simple. It is a request to combine 2 lots into one another. The applicant owns both, wishes to maintain them both as residential lots and combine them and erect fencing around it to increase the size of their green space and yard area. So there is, as noted, not in a floodplain, no significant concerns with any easements or interference. And there seems to be nothing that would cause any conflicts in any existing codes. And staff would follow along with the recommendation of the applicant and see no issues with it.
We've done this plenty of times before, but I'm just curious. Are you Mr. DeWeese?
No, sure.
Oh, you're not. Okay. Why they want to fence in the entire perimeter?
That would be a
I
Do
do
you
know,
know
they want to put in a pool,
Oh,
and so with the way the slopes
Makes sense.
are and everything, it would cross over the property line between
Okay.
the 2 lots, and you can't do that, so even though he already, we're talking about you. Yes. So anyway, that's
Okay.
why.
okay. I'm
'Cause
just
you
curious.
can't, you can't put some,
Kind of curious.
well, they already own both lots.
Right.
But you can't build across the property line
Right,
unless
I
they're
understand
combined.
that, yeah.
Okay.
I just didn't know why they want to fence in the entire property, so I understand now. Cool.
Yeah, I said earlier, I mean, this is in my neighborhood. I mean, I walk by this all the time. I mean, the driveway's on both lots. There's no reason not to combine it as far as I'm concerned.
Great.
Any other comments? Mr. Deweese, you wanna address the board? You wanna say anything?
Everything else I should say.
All right. Motion?
I'd like to move for approval of Planning Board 2102 lot combo of lots 70 and 69.
Second.
I missed 2 seconds. Mr. Mr. Bennett made a motion to approve planning board case 21-02 lot combination of Highview Terrace lots 69 and 70. This was seconded by Mr. Tuttle. Mr. Bennett.
Yes.
Mr. Tuttle.
Yes.
Mr. Stengel.
Yes.
Mr. Harding.
Yes.
Chairperson Thompson.
Yes,
It was easy.
it was. So moving on to the next piece of business is the lot split, 4100 State Route 725.
This is noted again in the packet, the that Bellbrook currently owns the entirety of the parcel, wishing to split off 2 tracts of the land. Following that, the adjacent landowner will wish to acquire those and like to come in for a combination into their existing lot to increase the size of their overall lot. As you see, it's been surveyed, properly noted within the plat. The tracts are identified. The applicant is here this evening. And directly from no, I'm
No.
sorry. I thought you indicated you were with the second one. Just open.
Oh, yes, sorry.
Yes. And so the applicant is not here. I apologize.
Okay.
And again, we see no conflicts in the existing zoning or codes within. Supporting maps and documents are attached there too, and staff sees no conflicts and would support a recommendation for this split.
I would like to, is there any comments, I guess?
Yeah, I looked at this earlier today, and I'm a little lost on which lots would be split
Okay,
off.
so flip that over to here. It's this little corner here.
Oh,
So that's
gotcha,
track
gotcha,
2,
got
and here's track 1.
Okay.
I have just one question. Is there any way to force the combination after the fact so that we don't end up with these 2 pieces just sitting, floating out there if they don't do it? That would be my only fear with it.
Are they gonna do a consolidation of those 3?
Yes, so that the property owner on Sugarwood Circle, I mean, that's the whole reason they've been talking with that owner, due to just kind of the odd shape of that lot.
Yeah.
They wanted to increase their backyard.
Sure.
And the church isn't using that.
Yeah, it looks like it's in a creek anyway. Yeah.
A lot of it is, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to make.
The chronological process that would be required is currently the land is owned by the church. The church would have to
Split, yeah, convey, and then, yeah.
Correct.
I just want to make sure, like, Clark County, we could force combinations. I just want to make sure there's some way to, like, do we have any standing to force it if for some reason they don't come in to do it down the road so that these aren't stuck as 2 little pieces of nothing just floating out there?
I believe once, if it is split, then there may be provisions to do that. But
Okay.
we've got to get into it.
Sure. I just am curious.
No.
I'm not against it at all. I just was curious about that.
Follow-up, is there any way we can do this all in one process?
In Greene County, I don't think there is, not to my knowledge. I know in Clark we could. We would just do it all at once, but it's different in Greene.
It would have to be recorded and platted as split, and then once that is recorded, then the combination would be, so there's another step in the process, otherwise.
So we're likely to see this again come our way.
Hopefully.
Okay.
Any other work on that?
This is right in my neighborhood. I mean, I could go out to my backyard and put a tee in the ground and a golf ball on top of it, and hit a good drive and land it in their front yard. These are the people that have the live nativity set up in the Christmas time. It's also where I vote.
Open comments? In this piece, open comments?
You gotta vote first.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I move for the planning board 2103 lot split of 4100 State Route 725, the approval of.
Seconded.
Mr. Bennett made a motion to approve planning board 21-03 lot split of 2 tracts of land from 4100 State Route 725. This was seconded by Mr. Harding. Mr. Bennett.
Yes.
Mr. Harding.
Yes.
Mr. Tuttle.
Yes.
Mr. Stengel.
Yes.
Chairperson Thompson.
Yes. Now open discussion. You're up.
We'll need your name and address.
Yeah,
Up
you
there.
can come up
At
here.
the podium, please.
Name and address, please.
Got it. Been there, done that. Okay. My name's Dan Hutchison. I live at 3869 Upper Bellbrook Road in Bellbrook. I've resided in Bellbrook since 1972. As a matter of fact, I was on the planning board. I was on Bellbrook Sugar Creek Park District and also athletic president. Anyway, I'm going to read to you, this concerns a proposed amendment to R1AA zoning, all right? If you're not familiar with all the zoning in the city, R1AA requires a 5-acre minimum. There's, I think, approximately 75 acres that are zoned under R1AA, and there's about 10 of us residents that live on that property. I'm going to read to you because it's very short, but this is what I sent to my neighbors. But it may also apply to my neighbors in all of Bellbrook and, quite frankly, in the township. Dear neighbors, I'm planning to approach the City of Bellbrook Planning Board to begin the process of making an application for an amendment to the R1AA zoning that would allow an accessory dwelling unit, parenthetically ADU, as a permitted use and to be located within a principal single-family detached dwelling or detached accessory building on the same lot parcel as a principal dwelling. I have held preliminary communications with Bellbrook City Manager Melissa Dodd, previous city manager, to learn how this might be received by City Council and for her direction and perspective on the subject. She looked at surrounding communities and reported that ADUs are allowed in Yellow Springs, Fairborn, Beaver Creek, and Xenia, and she added she would be supportive of adopting Yellow Springs ADU guideline language, provided we added language that an ADU could not be utilized as a short-term or transient rentals. Final paragraph. My primary motivator in Bellbrook zoning allowing an ADU on our property is it would enable Mary Beth and I to age in place and continue residing on our property while providing an accessory on-site dwelling, thus enabling us to have 1 or 2 persons living next to us and able to support our needs. We believe the zoning amendment is consistent with Section 3 of the easement and agreements which the landowners have, that it is in step with the changing needs of adopting zoning to address shifts in our population's demographics, health, and housing needs, and that it would be in the best interest of all of our properties to have this ability if desired. I would appreciate your positive support of this initiative, and I'll keep you aware of the developments and further solicit your input when the formal application process gets underway. And for your benefit, respectfully, I'm introducing this subject so Planning Board can give consideration to its nature and help determine if I, or perhaps the Planning Board, is the appropriate party to submit application for the zoning amendment. I'm prepared to make application soliciting your guidance and preference so the process can move forward. Thank you. Any questions?
So you currently have 5 acres,
Yes, sir.
and you want to put another dwelling on it.
Yes, sir, an accessory dwelling unit.
Do you have city water, city sewer?
No, I'm on a well, and I have city sewer.
Well, and city sewer. Oh,
Yep.
okay, that's good.
Yep.
Or
The-
county sewer.
The sewer runs all the way up to the high school. It cuts across our property.
Okay, yeah. I suppose the problem is, well, if you had a septic tank, that may be a problem, but you don't.
No, sir, I don't. In all of these matters, I'm prepared to work with Planning Board and City Manager and whoever else in terms of adopting. And the reason I propose just under the R1AA is because I think it's an easy proving ground. It only impacts approximately 10 residences or parcels, and it gives you the ability to ease into looking at ADU use within our community. So,
Just as a comment, I'm
No.
just hearing it just now immediately. I'm not against the idea. I mean, especially in a parcel that size. I mean, I would think you always think of in residential properties, the first acre is considered primary. anything over that is considered like undeveloped residual acreage as far as how I learned it. And so 5 acres, you have plenty of additional acreage that would support a second dwelling. But again, very early on, but just hearing it now, from my perspective, if you're sitting on 5 acres and you want a secondary dwelling unit,
Yeah.
I don't see a problem with
If I
that.
if I could take one more minute, for your benefit, if I could just simply recite what the language provided by Yellow Springs is, so that you can understand the restrictions and the general guidelines in terms of how people look at ADUs. It's one data point to consider. And so an accessory dwelling unit may be located within a principal single-family detached dwelling or a detached accessory building on the same lot as the principal dwelling. A minimum of 1 off-street parking space shall be provided on the lot for the accessory dwelling unit, in addition to the off-street parking spaces required for the principal dwelling unit. The accessory dwelling unit shall be limited in size to a maximum of 66% of the total living area of the principal dwelling, or 800 square feet of the total living area of the principal dwelling, or 800 square feet, whichever is less. The accessory dwelling unit shall contain a living area, I'm almost done, 1 bath and a kitchenette, including refrigerator, microwave, stove, etc., and may contain not more than 1 bedroom. No more than 2 adults shall occupy the accessory dwelling unit. And finally, no new access points or driveways shall be created or installed for access to the accessory dwelling unit. So I think many of the surrounding communities have already, addressed this respective zoning and use. And so I think there's some guidelines, I think there's some history there that you could research and reference in terms of taking this into consideration.
So this couldn't be like a rental property?
No, sir.
So this has got nothing to do with planning board, but who would be living in the ADU?
Well, in the ADU, I mean, either my wife and I could downsize from our primary resident into the ADU, and we could have a family take our house. We could have caregivers, for instance, a professional doctor, or my family members, right? I happen to have a doctor who's a son who's a doctor. And so the concept here is that you would have caregivers, or they can live in the accessory dwelling unit that are close by, that could take care of Mary Beth and I as we age.
That's an excellent idea.
It's basically it's like a mother-in-law unit, as they refer to them.
Right.
But I think it's important, as opposed to, trying to sneak one by, that we try to address this, because our society is changing, we're aging, and I'd like to live on that property till they gotta carry me out.
So exactly where is this property?
We're actually between the 2 cemeteries, conveniently enough. So we're on the old Brock farm. So Jack Staley subdivided that property, and
On Upper Bellbrook?
yes, sir, right in between the 2 cemeteries.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, down the private lane toward the east.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Very good,
Excuse me?
very good.
Yeah, no, it's
That's a
been,
great idea, actually,
well, we'd like to work with planning board.
which I had 5 acres.
I know you said there's 10 acres within, or 10 sites rather, within that.
There's about 10 landowners there.
How,
I don't think all of them have a house on them right now.
do we know how many total properties there are that are this one? I know you're not gonna know off the top of your head, but are there a lot of areas that are zoned R1 AA
No, that's all there is
for the whole city?
for the entire city.
Okay, it's not just that development.
No, that's it.
Okay,
That's it. That's why I thought it was, basically a confined area that you can consider.
okay.
Is there anything for sale back there?
Not that I'm aware of, but
Great idea.
Looking for those 5 acres, are you?
no, I'm trying to stay there.
You might have me as a neighbor.
The reason I also suggested whether I should be the applicant, or whether, in looking at your regs, sometimes the planning board is the applicant, was that as you folks consider, the request is whether it makes more sense from the standpoint of considering ADUs, whether the planning board should take it before council. But I'm prepared to go ahead with I'm not trying to skirt and have somebody else do it. I'm prepared to make and file the amendment. I'd like to do it with the input and the guidance from both planning board, city manager, and any other that have a sound perspective in terms of what considerations we should give to my filing the amendment application.
In terms of process, what typically would be done, especially with code changes or amendments to either zoning code or the planning code, the city itself being an applicant, that generally would come typically as a motion from council, authorizing or directing the manager to make application for that process. So one way that could be done is to have you present to actually city council and discuss it as a citizen
Sure.
initiative, and then if city council likes the idea to have the code changed, then
Alternatively,
having it come through that direction into planning board, and then planning board would then
right,
authorize it.
I simply raise it so that everyone was aware that that's an option for you. I'm deferring and respecting your position. I do prefer to make the amendment because then you can actually give me, as the applicant, a recommendation that you as planning board would like to make application to the council yourself. So at least this way I get the process going. I do some of the research, some of the work, and I'm more than happy to have it go in either direction. And I don't have anything, burning a fire under this. I think the subject, any amendment always deserves due consideration and research, so, I'm just here to work with you. That's why it's an introductory, open conversation.
I guess my question would be, what is the benefit of an amendment to the code versus a variance for an individual site?
Well, that's a good question. A variance, you have to, I think every individual has to apply under a variance. And I think I'd rather, for the benefit, I think it's more, what's the word? I think it's more administratively correct, with all respect, to seek an amendment, because I think that the properties, and it also sets precedent to some extent with regards to how the city of Bellbrook is looking at adopting a change in its zoning code. And I think rather than make a variance or an exception, I think the appropriate, at least first course, is to submit for an amendment. Yeah, that's just my position. I respect
Well,
it.
that's actually a good position, rather than,
Yeah.
no offense, but a
Yeah.
variance, everybody would have to.
Yeah, non-compliance and variances, they can really turn into a pushing contest. Anything else? Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and thanks all you guys for being up there. Good luck to you, buddy.
Thank you, Stan. Have a good evening.
We have all
Yep.
your,
Yes.
we have your,
Yes, I have
we have
I
the
have
phone
all
number
this-
stuff, yeah, we'll be in touch.
Any other discussion?
Open discussion? Oh,
Yeah.
all right, I would like to acknowledge my pal Brady Harding running for city council. I think he would make a very good city councilman. And I would encourage everybody to vote for Brady come November.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Anything else?
I'm good. I'm just glad to be here.
I'm actually glad to be anywhere.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion?
I'll second it.
So moved. Oh, well, who, second, who?
Pick, man.
All right, I'm too late.
Flip a coin.
Mr. Stengel made a motion to adjourn the planning board meeting of August 19th, and this was seconded by Mr. Tuttle.
Sure.
Sure.
I'm not gonna argue it.
Aye.
Aye.
We go turn off?
All right.
Hey.
Jason? Yes. It's the pool with the big walls around it.
Okay.
Down by third house on the right when you come in. Red brick.